Hey guys, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another episode of Achieving Perfection. This is going to be for a World Reborn and the Shiv node. Now, per the usual, I'm going to go ahead, show the decks I would suggest, and then get into nitty-gritties. So if you are newer to the game, I'd go ahead and use Chandra, or if you have a better Red Walker, use a better Red Walker, but I would go with something like this here. And then if you have a more extensive collection, I'd use something more like one of the following three. So this Engrath deck is incredible. So this one, or Bolas the Ravager, best Planeswalker, and this one is actually, in my opinion, best deck for this here. Or Sarkhan. And you could go with something like this. Now, let's go ahead, take a look at the event, and then get back into deck building. So for the event itself, the node itself, Shiv is our first real test in this event because you need to win the fight. That much is obvious, but you need to summon 4 more goblins or warriors, which can be kind of annoying. The goblin part isn't very annoying if you have access to things like Kranko, or Siege Gang Commander, but if you don't have those, it can be a bit on the annoying side. And then the lose 3 or more creatures can be a little bit tough too, especially because you're trying to build up and you're trying to limit yourself. So those two objectives are sort of counterintuitive. And then the other piece that makes it kind of scary is that this node has Verix Bladewing, and we're going to get into Verix soon. Verix isn't something that you really need to worry about if you have a more extensive collection and some of the nastier beaters, but if you don't have access to them, Verix's support is lethal. So let's get into... Oh, and Shiv has 120 health, right? So this is the first one that's going to be close to what a level 60 Planeswalker would have. So for running Chandra, cards like Dragon Fodder and Goblin Gathering, they're both going to summon you Goblin tokens. So these are going to help you achieve the Goblin objective, the summon Goblins. You can use tokens. That works. That's fine. That's great. Totally worth it. As warriors go, Grand Warlord Rada is one of the best that you can use. It's going to have haste. The 5 toughness means that it's going to be able to take some of the direct damage that Shiv will throw its way, and it's going to be giving you mana, which is super important. Dreadhorde Butcher is a really cool card for this node because it powers itself up, both its power and its toughness. So this is another one that will take a little bit to kill from the opponent, and in the event that Shiv does wind up killing it, it's going to become a burn spell. So it can burn the opponent, it can burn one of their creatures and get rid of them, or in the event that you still need to lose more of your own creatures, you can use it to burn one of your own creatures out, and that works too. So along sort of the same line as the Dreadhorde Butcher, the Volley Veteran here, when it enters the battlefield, if you've got your Goblin tokens out, it's going to deal damage to target creature equal to the number of goblins and goblin reinforcements you control. So this can be kind of cool for just serving as a little bit of removal. It's got 4 power for 7 mana, which is also pretty decent. So it's really not a bad option. You definitely want to make sure you have support removal. You want to be able to get rid of Verix's support. There are other supports that Shiv will play, so you may even want to use more support removal than just Demolish, but you definitely want to be able to get rid of that. Gem converters are critically important. Both of these are going to convert to red. The retreat is going to prioritize red. There's probably going to be 5 or more red gems, so you're going to be fine. Justice Strike is fantastic. It's got a low mana cost. It's going to kill Verix, so it's a great choice. And then Engrath's Rampage is another one. It's just going to kill anything, which makes it very decent. And then you don't have to worry about Vanguards, so that's really not a big issue. So that would be my suggestion for Chandra. Engrath, this one actually made me really sad, and it made me really sad because I was really hoping that with Captain's Command that you would be able to gain control of your opponent's creature And then when it's destroyed at the end of the turn, it would count toward the lose objective. And so I've been doing a lot of testing in different events this week for objectives that require you to lose creatures, and there isn't a single one of them that has accepted Captain's Command as a way of losing creatures. So this will not work toward the objective, which is a major bummer. But Engrath has access to black, and that is very important. And it's very important for a few reasons. One, you can run Squee, along with things like Rakdos the Defiler, or another card I'll show you in just a moment, and more consistent kill spells, so things outside of the realm of just burn. Now, Squee and Rakdos form an amazing combo together. They form an amazing combo because Squee is going to complete the goblin portion of your objective, and Rakdos is going to kill Squee repeatedly because Squee is not a demon. And so that's going to get rid of the lose 3 creatures objective. And on top of that, Squee is going to go ahead and complete the goblin objective if you summon them. So this really is only a viable strategy if you have Killer Instinct. If you don't have Killer Instinct, don't use Engrath with these two together, right? Not a good choice. You'd be better off running Bolas. But if you do have Killer Instinct, then yeah, by all means, Squee with Rakdos, they're great. Killer Instinct is just going to fetch the creatures out, so this is going to make sure that you complete your objective for goblins. Things like Death Sprout, Murder, and Electro Dominance are just going to help you kill things as you need, be it your own squeeze or the opposing creatures. Apex of Power, this is card draw, which is amazing. We've got Gem Conversion, bada bing, bada boom, and then finally Demolish to get rid of the Verix support or other pesky supports. Now, there is one other warrior that's really good when you're running black, and that is surprisingly an Origins card, so you may wind up having it, and it is here, Fleshbag Marauder. So this is a warrior. You can use it in conjunction with Squee if you don't have Rakdos, but when it enters the battlefield, it's going to destroy another creature you control and a creature your opponent controls. So if you have Squee, it destroys Squee, Squee comes back, and then it destroys one of your opponent's creatures. And so that's pretty nice synergy there. It's got 5 power, so it's only got 2 less power than Rakdos, so it's going to kill a little bit more slowly, but it still works and is fantastic, amazing, and great. So it's another good choice. So this is one deck that I would suggest. Over here, we've got Bolas the Ravager. This one is super amazing, right? This is actually the deck that I would suggest using. Siege Gang Commander comes out and makes 3 goblin tokens. So this just immediately completes the summon 4 goblins. This one card does it all. Scab Goliath is another really cool option for destroying your own creatures, and it's going to go ahead and get Berserker, which means that it will probably, maybe, sort of, ultimately kill itself. And then if you need to get rid of it, you can go ahead and Death Sprout it or Murder it. And because you're running Bolas, you've got access to Blue Sun Zenith for additional card draw, in addition to your Apex of Power. So this deck is very well rounded. It's going to not only be able to complete the summon and the lose creatures objectives, but let's actually go back out of here for this. But for Bolas the Ravager, when you use that third ability, you can choose to pop your own creature. So you can deal 20 damage to your own creature, and then when it flips to the Arisen, you can then just keep using Rend the Feeble on your own creatures. So you can keep using it on Squee repeatedly if you still need to lose more creatures, right? So beyond that, you could also use Evoke the Fallen to bring back goblins and warriors, and that counts as summoning too. So really everything about Bolas the Ravager / Arisen makes it the best for this node, ignoring the fact that it's definitely the best walker. And then Sarkhan the Unbroken, this is our last suggestion. And with this, you could go with something like Krenko. Krenko is going to go ahead and pretty immediately complete the Summon Goblin objective. And in conjunction with Siege Gang, you're going to get a ton of tokens, and you're going to complete your Goblin objective. The only thing you have to watch out for, definitely don't play a Krenko until you have charged up removal in your hand that you can use to kill your own Krenko, because Krenko or kill the Krenko's tokens, right? Either way, because Krenko is going to kill Shiv way too quickly. So you need to really be careful of that. I would even hazard to say that you might want to swap out Finale of Devastation for another piece of removal, maybe Banefire or something like that. Because you have access to red and blue, you can use Apex of Power and Blue Sun together. You can use the Great Aurora to just board wipe, which is great, fantastic, amazing. It's going to keep you in the game, and it's going to ensure that you complete your objectives, which is wonderful and beautiful. We've got Death Sprout with Rupture Spire, which are butts bananas together, so fantastic. Now, really quickly, before we call it good, I'm going to go ahead and suggest a few other cards. So let's go ahead, go to cards. If you don't have some of the cards that I showed off, right, and so you're looking for some other suggestions, there are still a few really good cards that you can use. So where are you? The Siege Gang Commander is the obvious choice for completing the Goblin token objective because you don't have to worry about it killing too quickly like you do with Krenko. And Squee is an obvious choice for the Lose Creature objective. But if you don't have those, Goblin Ringleader is great because you can just use it to fetch multiple copies of the Ringleader if you keep it as your only Goblin. And so it's just going to fill up your hand with more Goblins. And so you can just play this and then use something to kill it, and then play the next version of it, which will give you more, and then kill that, play it, kill it, and so on and so forth. And so you can really ride this card to completing all of the objectives. Now, it's not as good as some of the other things that I showed, but it's still effective and works. So any of the top 4 goblins work. Trashmaster does not work. This is called Trashmaster because it is literal trash. It is a master of being trash. It is bad. Don't use this one. So, right. The top 4, though, those are all really good choices. I've gone ahead, showed the Marauder. In the event that you wanted to see some other warriors, do not use Oketra. I'm saying do not use Oketra because Oketra hits really, really hard. And the warriors that come out are 4/4s. So they ramp up really fast. You probably will not be able to complete your objectives really easily if you're running Oketra. The Blood Flame here, Garna, is actually a very solid card for this event, for this node, because it's going to return creatures from your graveyard to your hand. So as you are losing creatures, it counts as a warrior toward that objective, and it's going to give you some of your creatures back, which can be really nice. And then the Graveblade Marauder can also be kind of nice because it has Berserker and is a warrior, but you do have to watch out for it hitting pretty hard, hitting for 9, right? Because that deals 5 damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. Can be pretty hefty if you're trying not to kill your opponent too quickly. And then really, other than that, that's really all that I would suggest for this node for the warriors. There's one other goblin, forgive me, give me just like 30 more seconds of your time, which is the Legion War Boss. This summons a token at the beginning of your turn, every turn, so that's going to go ahead and complete your goblin objective pretty quickly too. And then you can just sacrifice those tokens, and it's not as deadly as Krenko, so you don't have to worry about killing as quickly as you would with Krenko. So if you wanted to use this instead of Krenko, totally fine. So I hope this video helps. I hope that you get perfect, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good night.